Wait, hold on. Is that David Wood? Wait! Don't gas me! I was trying to be serious the whole time. Don't gas me! Don't gas me! Your favorite creator sent me 100 nug. Are you crazy?
David, get up here right now. Come on.
David, get over here right now. Get over here right now. Get over here. That's actually mad. Hold on. Whoa! Whoa! What? Yeah, hold on. Yeah, this is yeah, I can't lie.
Here he is, the
Lock
man.
off
How you doing,
online
David?
right now. This is
Hey, what's
mad.
up?
Ahoy everyone and welcome to another video. This one's a little bit different. So I recently had the pleasure of going on Sig's YouTube channel and something surprising happened. David Wood turned up, which was wild. And also as well, during the live stream, we managed to cross the 1,000 subscribers milestone, which is astounding, mind-blowing. So God bless you all. Thank you so much for tuning in and for giving me some love and showing support and things. It genuinely means the world to me. So without further ado, here is the unedited conversation when I was on Sig's live stream with David Wood and Ananda Apologetics. God bless all, and I hope you enjoy.
Today as well. Wait, hold on. Is that David Wood? Wait. Wait! Don't gas me! I was trying to be serious the whole time. Don't gas me! Whoa! Don't gas me! Don't gas my thing. Please say that's a fake. Don't gas me! Don't gas me! Don't gaslight me, David! That Woods, don't gas me! Don't gas me! You can never chat to me ever again. Your favorite creator sent me 100 nog. Are you mad? Your favorite creator sent me 100 nog. Are you crazy? Hey, can I give this back? Someone check if that's a real account, because that's not a real account. We have a transformer in the chat. We have a transformer in the chat. We have a transformer in the chat. There's no way that's David Wood. We're talking the Dizzle son, like that guy. Nah, there's no way. That's not real. And he just said you can do it. See, this is what I'm saying. I help smaller creators, yeah. Hey, someone check if it's the real account before he runs away. Someone check. Is that the real him? It is. It is. It's the real him. Yo. It's the real him. Yo, David. Oh my golly gosh. How do I David join the stream? Whoa. David, you didn't have to. David, you didn't have to. David, what are you doing? David, what are you doing? David, cut through. I don't actually have his number, so anyone that's saying I have his number, I don't have his number. David, wow. There is no compulsion in paying the jizya. If David Wood can pay it, you can too. If David Wood can pay the jizya, alhamdulillah, you can too. Matter of fact, we're gonna make this a thumbnail. So I'm gonna yeah, hold on. Wait, no, hold on. No, hold on. Alright, cool. That's a thumbnail. Oh my goodness.
Is this real?
It's real, bro.
Bruh. David, get up here right now. Come on.
David, get over here right now.
Come on.
David.
Come on, David. You can do it.
David, what are you doing? Yeah, David has lost his whole soul. This guy sent 100 NOK for no reason.
I don't even have 100 nug.
I don't have 100 NOK on me.
What you do now, apparently.
Yeah, apparently I do, bro. YouTube will take 30, but it's calm. Hey. David. Hey, see, this is what I'm saying. You see, Sig, over here on the channel, we support smaller creators. You know what I'm trying to say? Like, we put smaller creators on the map. We try to help smaller creators like David Wood try to get on the channel. You know what I'm trying to say? We're trying to get him bigger and that. Whoa. Wow. Nah, David Wood, thank you. Honestly, David, I appreciate you. Thank you so much. God bless. Thank you so much. Mad. Or was it AP? Oh, it was AP. That's even greater. And his wife is Orthodox. This is what I'm saying. This is great nog. Oh my goodness. Yeah, David Wood, you're a bad boy. You're a bad boy. Whoa. No, anyways, thank you so much, guys. I do appreciate it. Well, we were talking about we were talking about Wes Huff as well. We're talking about the whole situation. It's actually insane. Wow. We got way off topic. This is crazy. Wow, that sent me. Wow. Cause that means that he watches. No, he doesn't watch my video. It probably just came on his page and he dialed in. There's no way. Mad. Wow. Reason Belief, how you doing, man? Plug your channel real quick.
Yeah, I'm good, bro. I'm hoping to cross 1K subs soon.
Guys,
I'm on 949, I think. 948, something like that.
You'll get it, bro. End of this week, we'll get it, bro. Listen, all of you, man, right here, that's on the channel right now. You see Reason Belief's YouTube channel. Hold on, let me put it on the screen as well so everyone knows what I'm talking about. If you guys go, if I go on YouTube right now, go on Reason Belief. Guys, I'm trying to keep calm. You don't understand. Man, them guys. I'm actually mad. Hold on. Whoa. What? Yeah, hold on. Yeah, this is yeah, I can't lie.
Here he is, the man. How you doing, David?
Right now, this is.
Hey, what's up?
David, what's going on? Oh my days.
I think you've caused Sig to have a little bit of a meltdown.
Oh yeah, that was weird.
Yeah, I've already lost my whole soul. I'll be honest.
It just randomly popped up on YouTube, so I jumped on there real quick, and I'm actually about to go to bed, but I was like, hey, let me toss Sig some cash real quick before I go to bed. But then I was like, I'll jump on for a second.
No, David, you're incredible. You're a crazy guy. That's the problem. You're a crazy guy, man. I appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you so much. No, I'm doing okay. We were we obviously I've been away, so there's so much stuff that we've missed, which is like the whole Wes Huff went on Joe Rogan finally. It broke the internet.
Yeah, I didn't know who Wes Huff was. So it was weeks before we even talked about it. Me and AP, because we review we try to review every trending thing that pops up, and we saw everyone talking about Wes Huff and Billy Carson. We didn't know who Wes Huff was. We didn't know who Billy Carson was. So people were asking us about it in the chat, and we're like, we don't what? No, we're not going to watch that. Anyway, a couple weeks went by, and we're like, okay, maybe we'll check this out. And I messaged AP as soon as I started watching. I was like, oh, this is actually this is interesting stuff, because after you've heard 30 debates on the existence of God and on whether Jesus rose from the dead and so on, it's like, okay, I know what all the arguments are and stuff. So I got, as soon as he started watching, it's like, oh, they're talking about some interesting stuff. And all right. So anyway, then we ended up talking about it a little bit.
Oh, okay. So you have covered the sort of Wes stuff that's been going on and stuff over the
Yeah, I
past couple
saw
of
it.
days.
Yeah, I saw everyone. And like you just said, I saw people post a
Yeah.
video, and all of a sudden that video's got 400,000. And I was like, who is this? Wait, who is this guy?
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. You know, crazy thing is people. I don't think people like actually conceptualize how big the situation with Wes Huff actually is, because if you add all of the content creators that have endorsed the videos that Wes Huff has been making, we're talking about an audience of tens of millions of people. That's 10 times the reach that Billy Carson by himself ever had. And
Mhm.
so there was this narrative for a long time that Wes Huff used Billy Carson for, let's say, clout, right? And that Wes Huff would be nowhere where he is without Billy Carson, things like this. Now, my response to this is as follows. If that was the case, you would only see Wes probably reach the amount of, let's say, popularity or trendiness that Billy Carson had. So he would only have an audience or pull of around 1 million or 2 million people. But we're talking about 8 times that amount. That's insane. What it says to me is Wes Huff is what I like to call an underground content creator, which is your favorite content creators' favorite content creator. So people who are actually popular, like let's say AP, D Wood, IP, Ruslan, all these kind of guys, whatever their names are, right? They watch guys like Wes when they want to figure out things or when they want to learn some more stuff from accredited sources or theologians that are more or less not popular but are really good in terms of information. And Wesley just needed just one little spotlight for him to be now appreciated by the popular space of people that like theology, of people that like religion. So that's what I think happened with Wes, basically.
Yeah, and again, I didn't know who he was. I don't even remember seeing the name before. But and then again, even after he started trending, we weren't watching because again, we didn't know who either one of them was, and we weren't
Right.
interested. Then eventually, when I started watching, then I ended up watching a bunch of his videos.
Okay.
And that's kind of like he's a good example in that he's been producing content for years, never
years.
took off, and all it needs is one little spark at some point, and it all just
And it's
it all
gone.
lights up. So that's kind of a lesson, just for people out there. Keep doing good work, keep putting out good content. Eventually out of nowhere something happens, and that's kind of a good reason. Like, even if someone's making content and they're like, oh, I put all this time into this and it didn't blow up, well, guess what?
No.
That's on your channel. And if you make another video and, oh, that one didn't blow up either, okay, that's on your channel. Eventually, if something happens where you've got everyone's attention, you don't want just that one thing, and then they look and they can't find anything else good from you. You want them, oh, who is this guy? And they go back, and guess what? Then all of a sudden, that stuff that you made 2 or 3 years ago, which is what's happening to Wes right now, all this stuff that he had 2 or 3 years ago that didn't take off, now all of a sudden it's taken off. So that's a good pattern for people to take note of.
It's true. Hey, Sam, have anything you want to say as well?
Yeah, I've seen him briefly before. I saw his book, his video on the Book of Mark about how each chapter reveals Jesus being God. I think that was about a year and a half ago, maybe a year ago. I can't remember when he uploaded it, but I'd seen that. I thought that was a very good video. But then it sort of like disappeared from there, and then obviously the Billy Carson sort of situation happened, and then like David just said, it's just sort of like this moment of just like everything just explodes. And that highlights as well why you should have good, like plenty of content on your channel, because once you have that audience and it starts pouring in, they then have content to consume, and then that will further solidify your viewership. So showing that it's not just a one-off, like a one-trick pony, that sort of thing. You're actually consistent in your uploads and stuff.
Speaking of like people that are actually like grinding in the jailhouse right now, guys, make sure you go and subscribe to Reason Belief over here. I don't know where I found this channel. It's like a crazy channel. I love his videos. His videos are so good. So if you go over to Reason Belief, okay, youtube.com/Reason Belief, make sure you go and subscribe. Get him to 1K, okay? Let's get him big immediately. But this is actually something that's interesting because of what we're talking about with Wes. If you look at his videos beforehand, because now he's sitting on 355K. So really big channel now. Like he's like God Logic has been putting in work, let's say for 4 or 5 years, and he's on 200K, which is like glory to God for God Logic, right? Wes is on 300K in terms of the internet, in a matter of minutes, right? He's blown up basically overnight. But if you look at all the videos that he's gone, we have videos, for example, that are sitting on 147K a year ago that now people are going back to watch because they saw the Billy Carson stuff. So it's like literally what David said. People are going back, for example, to his video 2 years ago on the Quran and the New Testament, or even his video here. Why do Catholics and Protestants have different books in the Bible? That's a 3 years ago video that was, last time I checked before I went to Italy, that was sitting on like, let's say like 3K, 4K. Now it's like out of proportion. Now we're talking 100 times the audience size due to the fact that Wes put in the work for so many times. He put in the work for so many years, and now he's getting the credit he actually deserves, which is insane.
Hey, there's the reverse. The reverse is true as well. And you see that with Billy Carson. If you're spouting complete nonsense for years, you can get away with it for a long time, and you can be popular with it for a long time. If you've got an audience that isn't looking up what you say, then you can say whatever you want. This is like the pattern in Dawah, right? It's I call it Islam's 99-1 rule. If Zakir Naik is spouting complete nonsense, but 99% of his audience is going to mindlessly agree with anything he says, then you just keep doing it. You keep building a bigger and bigger audience, and you could do that for years. Get a ton of people who trust everything you say, and then get horribly exposed one day. And then all of a sudden, oh my goodness, I can't believe anything that guy ever told me. It was it's like the reverse of what just happened with Wes Huff. You can be putting out content for years, have a following, or have people following you and showing up to see you speak around the world, and all of a sudden you're a laughing stock to everyone.
Oh, it's so bad. And I think the real problem with Billy Carson is he went on Flagrant. Flagrant is a huge platform, right? Comedian Andrew Schultz runs Flagrant, really funny guy. I liked his comedy when I was younger, but now I don't really do comedy as much, but things are things. He went into the podcast scene, blew up the internet. All of his podcasts are like fire. Every single episode blows up. And Billy Carson went on there, started talking about the Codex Sinaiticus, obviously. He started talking about the Emerald Tablets.
You mean the Sinai Bible?
Oh, the Sinai Bible. So you see, the Sinai Bible has got two quick picks and it don't have the crucifixion in the Sinai Bible. Took it out. And if you look at the Gospel of Matthew, they actually have the Gospel of Jesus' wife inside the Gospel of Matthew, and that's how he swung his body to the side, and that's how Christ he escaped the dead. Basically, you got a God consciousness. Christ is conscious inside you with the mushrooms. You take the mushroom, they're gonna flip over. It's like it's ridiculous. Honestly, it's very, very bad. So
not if you're an alien. That makes perfect sense, right?
True. I mean.
Greetings, Earthlings. Take us to your mushrooms.
Meet Mark.
There must be some good stuff.
My name is Billy Carson. I wear glasses.
It was also cool because Wes said that he only had like I think he said like less than 24 hours notice or something like that.
Oh yeah. Wes was defendant number 2. Someone said that I'm defendant number 69. I don't know where I got to be a defendant from. They said all of the apologists, Ruslan KD was defender 101. I don't know why Ruslan was 101. I don't really know where that came from. But he just started saying any sort of content creator that's making content about me, I will copyright strike. Then he had a 3-hour live stream where he was trying to expose the guy. And I thought, he's definitely going to take this down. He's definitely going to take this 3-hour live stream down.
That's the thing, is that by making that live stream, he ruined any chance of him actually taking any of these guys to court. He ruined anything. Because he openly admitted to actually wanting to do to prolong everything in court to drain enough money.
And that's called, I'm sure you guys are familiar with the Streisand effect. That's called the Streisand effect. For anyone who doesn't know what the Streisand effect was, it was years ago, someone was just taking pictures along the coast of California and just posting them on a tiny little website about pictures of the coast. And then he got contacted all of a sudden by Barbara Streisand's lawyer saying, hey, you have a picture of my client's house and we demand that you take it down or we'll sue you or something like this. So then he posts it, and the photograph had like 3 views and like 2 of them were from the lawyer. So in other words, no one was ever going to see this. But apart from that, it's not illegal to take to take pictures from the water of the coast. And so
True.
he told people that, hey, Barbara Streisand's planning on suing me over a picture from a boat. And all of a sudden then it got millions of views. So
Yeah.
them trying to shut it down actually drew more attention to it. That's what
And it
happened
just
with
made it
Billy.
inadmissible.
That's what happened with Billy Carson. He said, I'm going to shut you all down. And then everyone's like, wait, what? What's going
No,
on?
see,
why is he trying
I'm
to shut him
gonna
down?
make a case on you. This is in America. So this is David. This is why I was laughing, because I was reacting to this. If you guys go on earlier in my channel, there is a video where the entire unedited 3-hour live stream Cope sesh is there. You guys can check it out. And then I have my own response live stream, which is really funny. He described what he was doing as a RICO case. Bear this in mind. He said, he said,
Criminal conspiracy.
he said, the entire Christian content creator space is a cabal that is used to launder money and views, and used Billy Carson, little old Billy Carson, who lives in a mansion. Well, he's little, but whatever. The mansion liver, we use the mansion liver to funnel the product of Christianity through Billy Carson and generate revenue from this. He accused every single Christian content creator of racketeering. Every single one. As in, bear in mind, David, I have almost 10K subs. How the hell am I supposed to do a racketeering scheme with 10K subs on YouTube? You tell me. How does that work?
Very carefully. You just got to be a criminal mastermind to pull that off.
See that I can get behind. See, I gotta take some tips from who's from IP. IP's got like a huge audience. He's definitely doing some racketeering, definitely. I mean, it's just
he is. I can vouch. I know him.
You were helping them. That's the problem. You were there. You were helping them. You were putting the money in the bags and everything. You're trying to go to the laundry. This is insane, man. I mean, he then started saying that he's gonna sue every single person alive in court, and it's like, dude, Wes Huff is officially bigger than you now. The only reason people mention you is because of Wes now. As in, you are now mentioned only because you are linked to Wesley Huff. No one is going back to look at your videos on the genesis of humanity. Bear in mind, right? If we compare this channel, I have to type in the phrase forbidden knowledge for his channel to actually appear. As in, I have to type that in specifically so his channel will appear. If I just type in Billy Carson, right? His channel appears, but then look, only these 2 videos, by the way. Another guy. That's him. Another guy. Another guy. Oh, here. Let me show. Here, there you go. So you just type in Billy Carson, right? His video 14 hours ago, you have a video of 10K views. Bear in mind, when Wes posted a video that got 10 times that amount in the first day. You have this video by Wes Huff, which is 2.1 million views. Alex O'Connor's response of a day ago got 400K. You have this video that he made a month ago with Terrence Howard, but that's his most popular video to date. You now have people like Professor Dave Explains, 1.8 million views. Volton Powers, for example, had a podcast where Billy was on, right? But then you have people like Capturing Christianity, and it's just flooded with Christian content creators basically showing how he's actually bad at this. Like, most of his videos in the top 20 are just people responding to how bad he is at this. It's insane. I mean, what do you were correct with the 99-1 rule. I think they just exposed him.
It's just weird. I mean, the really weird part was watching him. Okay, first he says the Sinai Bible, and I'm saying, as a matter of fact, I didn't even eventually watch it because I was interested in it. I watched it because people started joking about the Sinai Bible in the chat, and they were saying Billy Carson and the Sinai Bible says that Jesus wasn't crucified in the Sinai Bible, right? And so they were saying that in the chat, and they're joking, but I didn't know what the joke was. So but after the show where people were posting that in the chat, I started thinking, What do you mean Sinai Bible? Do you mean Codex Sinaiticus? This was
Yeah,
exactly
like
Wes
just
Huff's
the
reaction. Right? I was like, do they mean Codex Sinaiticus? And but then I'm thinking, what do you mean it denies the crucifixion? It's one of the all-time main Bible manuscripts.
Sure.
And if you're saying it denies the crucifixion, you're talking about dozens of passages in the New Testament to talk about the crucifixion of Jesus. So I was trying to figure it out. I'm thinking, does he mean there's a textual variant? But where, and it has to be where, like one verse, it couldn't be in all of it, because I would be hearing from Muslims all day, every day, that Codex Sinaiticus denies Jesus' crucifixion, and yet I've never heard that. So then I was like, oh, I have to actually go and start watching this to see what the heck they're talking about. And I clicked on it, and he's like, Sinai Bible. I was like, what the heck is the Sinai Bible? And then Wes clarifies, oh, you mean Codex Sinaiticus? He says, yeah. And I'm like, how that, what is he saying? There's no way that Codex Sinaiticus denies the crucifixion of Jesus. And then when he says Gospel of Barnabas, I was like, oh, now I know what you're talking about. You sound like an idiot. But that's the thing. The fact that he's been saying this for years and going around and getting away with the Sinai Bible and never gets called on it. And it took this long for him to get called on it. That's kind of a shame. Like everyone out there, that's kind of on you, his listeners, whoever was listening to him. If you just mindlessly agreed with him because he sounded confident, these are the same people who would fall for like Dawa script, right? Like, oh, he's saying this. He's saying there's the scientific miracles. Let me just believe him instead of actually going and looking it up. But I think how difficult would it have been at any point for any one of his listeners for the years that he's been saying this to say, what do you mean by Sinai Bible? I want to look this up. What do you mean by Sinai Bible? I want to look this up for myself. And in the process, you would have found out at first he means Codex Sinaiticus. And then if you were to look up Codex Sinaiticus, you would have found there's no way this denies the crucifixion. And then you would ask him and say, what the heck are you talking about? And then it would have forced him to say, Gospel of Barnabas, at which point you would have Googled it and said, wait a minute, that's like a medieval forgery. What are you talking about? Who is this guy? And so the idea that you could have all these followers for all these years and it never crosses anyone's mind to look up what they're being told, that's actually disturbing. If you have a population around the world and they just mindlessly agree with anything anyone's saying, you're begging for someone like Billy Carson to take advantage of you and manipulate you. You're begging for it. Or a Dawa guy, someone is going to take advantage of you for being that gullible.
Do you know what I think the problem is, though? Yeah, go ahead, Sam. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, like, Billy Carson strikes me as the type of person to see a conspiracy in everything. Like, he's got that sort of like mindset. If you actually look at his channel and the content it puts out, it sort of reminds me of InfoWars with like, oh, the water's making the frogs gay. That sort of like mentality, that sort of thing.
They did make the frogs gay though. Like, you gotta affirm that. If you really think about it, they put the chemical in the water. The water made the frogs gay. Like, it's true. I believe it. I'm not gonna lie. Shout out to Alex Jones.
There is an issue, but as you're pointing out, once you think of everything as a conspiracy, then any news you get, you're automatically thinking conspiracy to do something else. And that's actually what got him, what got Alex Jones in all that trouble is, you had a mass school shooting where a guy walked into school, killed a bunch of kids, and he was saying, nope, it's all fake. All these parents are paid actors. And then the parents start getting harassed for lying and
being paid actors.
Yeah. And so, but it's the same thing where any sort of news now, like recently, Candace Owens, right when there was that terrorist attack in New Orleans, she said, oh, let me guess, this is the government, and they're going to blame an Iranian so that we can go to war in Iran. It's like, don't you want to at least see if it's just a terrorist attack by a guy first before you go to the conspiracy theory? But yeah, there are people out there, and guess what, guys? Here's the thing about a conspiracy theory. Once you believe everything is a conspiracy, there's kind of no way to prove there's no way to prove you're wrong. That's the strength of a conspiracy theory. If you try to prove the guy wrong, that's exactly what I would expect you to say if you're part of the conspiracy, right? Like if I believe that everyone in the world, all 8 billion people are conspiring against me right now, they're all talking about me and they're all plotting against me. What could anyone do to prove me wrong, to prove that you're not all conspiring against me? Because I would ask you, hey, Sig, you conspiring against me?
Yeah, I am.
Okay, so you admit it. Ha ha. What about you, reason belief? Are you conspiring against me? He says yes. So that's the confirmation. If you say, guess what? If you say no, that's also confirmation, because that's exactly what so it doesn't matter what you say. You can say
Yeah.
yes, this confirms it. If you say
Or
no, that
no, this
confirms it,
denies
because
it
that's exactly what I would expect you to say.
in a
If
conspiracy theory.
yeah, and that's why it's a problem. So once you go the conspiracy route, you can just kind of get sucked into it, because there's nothing that happens that you can't view as a conspiracy by someone.
I think the problem is like there are many unfalsifiability claims. Like this is what we talk about with when a claim is unfalsifiable. We don't have a way of making the claim to be seen as false. If someone says it's not raining, there is an easy way that we can prove that that claim is false. You can just go outside and look up. But when it comes to, let's say, like the Muslim claim of Jesus didn't die on the cross, it was made to appear like he died on the cross. If every single piece of data from every historian around the time, contemporaneous to the time, or even later than the time, everyone is saying, yeah, he did die, of course that's
Of
what you
course.
expect.
Allah made it
Because
look
it
like
was
that.
made to appear like that. So all data actually in the Muslim's mind just confirms the Muslim claim, because the only way to falsify the claim that Christ didn't die on the cross would be if actually Christ himself came down and said he died on the cross. Oh, wait, no. Actually, that is also part of the deception.
Mhm.
The only way would be to falsify the Quran, which is literally impossible under the Muslim schema, because all the falsifiability criteria actually don't work. So there's a huge problem already. And it's the same thing that we do with people like Billy Carson, where the only way to falsify Billy Carson is if Billy Carson himself comes out and says, yeah, I was wrong, which he will never do because he's the standard of truth. I mean, the Codex Sinaiticus, like, you can search this up. Like, it's a public website that you could just go on the internet and see, oh, yeah, like, it's here or it's not here. You could go to like the Gospel of John and see the death of Christ. Or you could go to the Gospel of Luke and see the death of Christ, or Matthew, let's say, and you would be able to see like the death of Christ in these words. In fact, I could probably look at 1 Corinthians and see whether or not it's actually there. If I go to 1 Corinthians, and I want to go to 1 Corinthians chapter 15, I think it's 1 Corinthians 15 verse 1, and then it has stuff like this, right? In verse 3, it literally says that Christ died in accordance with the scriptures. So it literally contains the information of Christ actually dying. If you actually look closer to the manuscript here that you can see, guys, if I actually go this way, just in the bottom corner here, guys, if you see that, it literally just like details the fact that, Christ died in accordance with the scriptures, and that he was raised in accordance with the scriptures as well. So I mean, you could see early Christian creeds like that just there. I don't really understand why people are making this issue like, oh, like this never happened. Like, it's just, I don't know why he even said it. And then he was like, no, I made a mistake. This was the gospel of Barnabas and then the gospel of Jesus' wife. It's like every single time he was proven wrong, he was like, oh, well, no, that's not actually what I was trying to say. I misspoke. Like, how many times are you gonna misspeak before you should decide that maybe I shouldn't have had this debate in the first place? Maybe I shouldn't have had this conversation in the first place. Oh, someone corrected me in the chat. He said that's Codex Sinaiticus, not the Sinai Bible. It's not.
I'm pretty sure the only instance, I think West looked it up or something like that. Someone looked it up anyway. The only instance of the Sinai Bible that he could find was a book on Amazon.
Oh, no. The Sinai Bible is Codex Sinaiticus. Like, that's
no, I know. It's in like the reference to the name Sinai Bible.
Oh, wow.
Like that's basically the only
so
reference
like
you
a
can find
guy
to it.
in 2013 on Amazon selling a book was like his early manuscript. That's great, man. That's great. I don't think it's actually a guy in 2013, but that's insane if it is. Like, that's actually kind of funny. Wow. I mean, shout out to Wes, man. He's doing all this kind of stuff. I mean, there's a bunch of stuff that I probably don't agree with Wes, but it's like, it's good that now people are actually seeing content like this and actually having these more high level discussions, which is what you want in the content creating space. I think my problem is David, and see if you agree with this. I feel like people outsource their content. I feel like people outsource content. Like, it takes a lot of work to read a bunch of sources, to understand the sources, to learn the languages, and just do the general work that is necessary to be knowledgeable in like a list of topics, right? So when a person doesn't want to do that but still wants to, quote, engage in these debates, they will basically treat YouTubers as outsourced sources for content. So I rather than me read, let's say, a church father or me read some scholars on a passage in the Bible, I will go to a YouTuber who has done this already, pay them with like my views or with going to their page and giving them something on Venmo. I will pay this YouTuber to do the content for me. And that's exactly what Billy Carson has done. He's basically profited off of people's ignorance and laziness. I don't know.
What do you mean? He's had other people making his
No, as
content?
in, so let's say you have a normal person. The normal person doesn't necessarily care about YouTube. He doesn't, we'll take this down now. He doesn't necessarily care about YouTube. He doesn't really care too much about any of this stuff. But he wants to engage in these debates. He wants to engage in these discussions. But he knows that it takes a long time to get good at them. You have to learn a lot of stuff. You need to read a lot of text. You need to actually research. And that takes time that you don't have. You just want to get the quick profit of being able to debunk someone in debate. That person is lazy. So they say, you know what? I don't want to do this hard work. Oh, there's this guy, Billy Carson, and he claims that he's extensively studied all of these texts and manuscripts. Let me just go to him and learn off of him. And I will give him money for his troubles, and he will be the scholar that tells me everything. No one's been able to debunk this guy. So, like, they outsource learning itself. They actually outsource learning to this random YouTuber who they think is an authority.
Yeah, that's kind of an issue that because you can have kind of a cult of personality where people just like someone's personality or something like this and kind of trust the person. And man, you better check out what that person's saying, because again, if you have no idea how to look something up and it never crosses your mind, someone is going to have you for dinner. Someone is going. There's a world of manipulators out there. There's a world of people out there who are happy to take advantage of other people. And if you're just, hey, I'll believe anything. Yep. They got you. Someone's going to get you.
Do. I mean, the thing is
Fact-checking
that
so
like,
important.
it's not even just fact checking, it's like knowing how to do it as well. Because like if you look at Islam, like if you look at Islam, a lot of the stuff that they will say like are like random disconcerted facts that are just supposed to like put doubt in Christianity and on a number of levels, which actually shouldn't be the case given the fact that Christians are the ones that are coming up with this information as well. But they do their very best to hide the information about Islam. Like through the 2010s, the entire claim was that Islam was a religion of peace. It was only with the birth of Muhammad Hijab and the Dawah movements that he started was when people started moving back towards, no, Islam is a religion of masculine violence and we're going to stand by that. Like, it must have been terrible for you, David, to have to continuously cite hadith, but then you had Yaqeen Institute come out and say, no, Islam is a religion of peace. Like, how did you deal with that in the early 2000s?
I keep telling people now, people have no clue. I mean, zero. If people come along now, I mean, if people were around in 2007 and were paying attention, they know. But people who just got involved in like the last few years, people have no clue how much it sucked back then. It sucked. There were not a lot of people. There was Tony Costa talking, who was debating up in Canada. There was me and like one or two others as far as apologists. Then you had a couple people like Robert Spencer and so on who was doing counter jihad stuff. And you had Jay Smith. You had Jay Smith in the UK. You had Samuel Green down in Australia. I mean, keep in mind there are other people who are doing it, but as far as like the main
Prominent
people who are like vocally, publicly and so on, going after Islam, you could count all of us on like 5 or 6 fingers. And back then, you got blasted by everybody. Everybody blasted you when you criticize Muhammad. And you could just be responding to an argument, because people don't realize when we started talking about like Muhammad and Aisha, it wasn't just to blast Muhammad for having sex with a little girl. We were pointing that out because back then they were using Muhammad's character as one of their top main arguments. It's this guy's character. I still have the books from back then when one of the main arguments is Muhammad's character is so perfect, he had to be from God. It would be impossible for a person to have a character this perfect unless God was with him. And so that's why we started, wait a minute, this guy had sex with a 9-year-old girl. Wait a minute, this guy did this. Wait a minute, this guy took the wife of his own adopted son. What are you guys talking about? He's the greatest man ever. This guy's not better than like any person I know. What are you talking about? And so that's why we kept using it. But when you said something like that back then, Muslims would blast you and threaten you and threaten your family. We're going to kill you. We're going to rape your wife. How dare you? Blah, 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 blah. And calling you a liar the entire time. Atheists would blast you. How dare you criticize another person's religion when you're religious too? All religions are equally stupid. How dare you criticize another religion when you have a stupid religion? And worst part, Christians would blast you. Come on, you're just supposed to lovingly share the gospel with everyone and never criticize another person's position. That might hurt his feelings. So you got blasted by everyone, and it was a sad world. And AP was just talking about it today, and he's much more recent, but like you can sit there telling people, correcting something for years to the point where you're wondering if anyone's even listening, right? Like, what is this doing? Everyone's saying I'm wrong. Everyone's saying I'm a liar. Everyone's attacking me. And all I'm doing is trying to correct something. And we point out eventually, like 15 years later, all of a sudden the lie comes crumbling to the ground. And you're like, oh, I'm glad we kept blasting away at that, because even though it seemed like we weren't accomplishing anything, it was actually working. And so right now, guys, you are in like these are awesome times when they come up with something and it just gets blasted and so on. You were talking years of hard work. And that's actually a parallel to what we were talking about with people at least getting in the habit of looking things up. It's one thing if you have some scholar and he says, did you know in the Greek of such and such manuscript, it says this, and it's like, most people aren't going to know how to look up that manuscript, how to read, how to read that manuscript, and so on. Right. But when it's like, oh, the Gospel of Barnabas, like what the heck? That would take you a 60 seconds of online research to see that is complete nonsense. And that's the thing. It's like the same with the Dawa nonsense over the years. The Quran's been perfectly preserved. It would take you 5 minutes of research to find out that's completely wrong. And no Muslim ever bothers to do it even slightly. And it's just
you can actually tell like a bunch of these stuff as well. Like I was in a cafe recently, and there was a Muslim woman. There was a bunch of us eating, drinking, like normal non-alcoholic stuff, guys, don't worry. Just eating, drinking, you know what I'm saying, being normal, like drinking stuff. And then what happened was we were talking about Islam, and we're like, oh, some of us are going to go down to Speaker's Corner, some of us are going to stay here. I'm like, no, I'm not going. Da-da-da. Long story short, there was a Muslim woman reading a book behind us, and she was like, don't believe everything you hear on the internet. Islam is a religion of peace. Muhammad is peaceful. But then I looked at how old this woman was that she was with me. She was a millennial, right? So she grew up in that era where Islam had to be repackaged as a religion of peace, especially due to the fact that most of the Muslim groups that were interacting with the West through the 90s and the early 2000s and then the 2010s were diasporic groups. They were diasporas. They were coming over to countries like the UK. They were coming over to polities like the US and in other places of Europe. And they were trying to set up shop. They were trying to assimilate themselves into the community. They were trying to grow at the communities that they wanted to be in. But because the religion was such a socioculturally defining thing and it opposed the sociocultural ideals of Christianity, they needed to find a way to actually get the religion to work. So what they had to do was package Islam as a religion of peace. So that was the apologetic that they did. Well, Islam is a religion of peace. It's a religion of peace. And to say anything other than that is Islamophobic. Now, bear in mind, there are real ideas of Islamophobia, being that an irrational fear or hatred of Islam. I don't irrationally fear or hate Islam. I disagree with Islam on many different grounds, but I have reasons for them, like very rational reasons. For example, I don't think it's morally okay to follow someone as your perfect example if they are morally not okay. Given the fact that Muhammad is not morally okay, I don't follow him, right? That's a pretty rational argument that someone could make. It's not as perfectly syllogized as I would need, but I think it's rational for the case that we're talking about now. But then once they've assimilated into the community, they've really gotten some foothold. They've actually been able to intermarry with other religious groups within, let's say, the UK or the US, and they've actually been able to have children here and actually grow a society here. Now people are, saying, well, Islam seems to be just like Christianity. It's a very weak religion. It's very passive. They don't really want to do anything. And with that passive mindset, Islam is going to die. Right? It's not gonna grow because it's not being seen as something that's culturally strong. And so now, from 2013, 2014, I believe, is the great shift where now Muslim apologists take a turn. and now have to argue that Islam is dominant, Islam is strong, and all of the bad and icky things that you guys claimed about Muhammad. No, yeah, they were all actually true, and we affirm them 100%. And if you criticize us, we will absolutely drive it down your throats. And it's that strength that now allows Muslims, especially, to consolidate. It's not about trying to assimilate into another people group. It's about consolidating their own sociocultural space, particularly the men, young men. They get radicalized into these particular views of Islam, and then they push them. And they push them because it's something really attractive. If you're between the ages of 13 and 21, and you're hearing Muhammad was like a warlord and he was bare strong and grr, and like the apologists you're seeing are like 6'4" Ali Dawah, 6'7" Muhammad Hijab, and he's like grr, big like that. Like, you're gonna get so attracted to that. Aki Ayman, for example, all of these Muslim apologists have to be masculine. There aren't any, like, to our name, there aren't any female dawah apologists out there that are really trying to push forward the submissive side of Islam to women. No, it's about consolidating the male strength, the masculinity of Islam.
By the way, it's not just that. This was part of the plan, by the way. You're right that back in like the early 2000s and so on, Islam was packaged as the religion of peace. It just was branded as that. And it's interesting because no other religion had to constantly remind you that it's the religion of peace. It was just Islam. As soon as it comes up, it's religion of peace and so on. Anyway, when I'm talking about people, not knowing how good they have it now, because I was around back then, because I was talking to the people who debated before me. So I started debating in like probably, I don't know, 2004, something like that, somewhere time around there. I had my first debate, but I was talking to people who'd done it before. The rules were different back then, because I would look for debates between Muslims and Christians, and every debate was, is Jesus God? Can I trust the Bible? Did Jesus rise from the dead? Is Jesus God? Is the Trinity true? And I'm like,
where us defending?
I was where are the debates on, is Muhammad a prophet? Can we trust the Quran? Where are these debates at? Right? Couldn't find any. So I started like asking around, like the people who debate. I found out this is how things worked back then. This is how things work. You're part of a Christian group or something like that. You want to have a debate at a school or something like this. So your organization would have to contact a Muslim organization and say, we would like to have a Christian Muslim debate or dialogue or something like that. And so what do you guys think about that? Then who are the Muslims picking? They're picking the person who is like most appealing to a Western audience, right? So this is what like Jamal Badawi and so on, Shabir Ali and so on back then. They would pick a guy so the Muslim organization would pick their guy, and they would say, here are the topics that we are willing to debate. Is Jesus God? Is the Trinity true? Can the Bible be trusted? Did Jesus rise from the dead? Something like that. And they would tell you, if anyone at any point criticizes Muhammad or the Quran, this debate is over. Muslims are all walking out. And Christians would go through with that. And what would happen every single debate? The Christian gives his presentation, the Muslim's attacking the entire time. The Muslim speaks last and say, you see, Christianity has all these problems. That's why you all need to convert to Islam. We've got the scientific miracles. We've got the perfect preservation. We've got the greatest man of all time, Muhammad. They say all this in their opening statement. You're not, no one can even respond to it. Right.
And these are the apologetics of the early 2000s and like, let's say the early 2010s as well.
Yeah, so I'm sitting there looking at this, and this isn't, and then Nabil converts a little after that, and I'm like, why are Christians falling for this? This is like the most manipulative scumbag move, and Christians are, okay, we really want to have the debate, so let's go ahead and do it, because they only knew how to go to a Muslim organization, say, bring your guy, and you guys set the rules, or there's no debate. You set the rules or no debate. So I said in Nabil back then, so this is like probably again like 2004, 2005. I said, these guys that they're putting forward as the champions of their religion, these are not like the Muslims that we know. And they are not like the Muslims we talk to online, which are much more aggressive, thumping their chest. We're strong. We're going to humiliate you. We're going to crush you. These guys are chosen to appeal to Westerners. They do not really represent the regular Muslim population. I say, we need to change this completely. Instead of going to the Muslim organization saying, who do you want to debate? And what are the rules going to be? we will announce online,
Mhm.
we are interested in debating this topic.
Mm.
Was Muhammad a prophet? Is the Quran the
Mhm.
word of God? These kinds of
Mhm.
things. And if you
Mhm.
want to debate a Christian topic as well, fine, we have 2 debates. But under no
But
circumstance
those
are we
ones
just going to
have
have a
to be
Christian
debate.
debate and not have
Mm.
something about Islam, right? So either
Right.
the debate is about Christianity and Islam simultaneously, or we have
Mhm.
2 debates, one Christian topic, one Muslim topic. And I
Mm.
said, and so what we'll do is we'll put out the challenge, who is willing to defend Muhammad?
Basically,
Who's
no
willing
one.
to defend Muhammad? Who is willing to defend the scientific miracles, if you guys are arguing
Mhm.
them? Who's willing to debate the scientific miracles of the Quran? We put out
Mhm.
the challenge out there,
Mhm.
and you guys decide who's actually gonna step up. And if you won't step
Right.
up, we will say you guys are a bunch of cowards. Look at this. You will not defend your claims.
Mhm.
Well,
Mhm.
anyway, then I ended up having like 7 or 8 debates on, was Muhammad a prophet? Had several on the scientific miracles and so on.
Mhm.
Debates on the Quran. That's how it started. But once that shift was taking place, that now Muslims are being forced to defend it, the older generation of debaters didn't want to touch it. And guess what? They were
Yeah, they
smarter.
couldn't keep
They
it.
were smart. They understood. If I never allow the topic of Muhammad and Aisha to come up in a debate, the
It's fine.
audience, neither the Christian audience, nor the Muslim audience, nor
They'd
the
be none the
atheist audience,
wiser.
no one's ever heard of that before. No one knows about it.
Mhm.
They don't know that
Mhm.
there's a problem. The
Mhm.
younger generation that we were appealing to, hey, who's willing to defend Muhammad? These young guys are like, these guys keep talking trash about Muhammad online, but we can refute them. I've got an answer.
Mhm.
They didn't realize that as soon as you're up on stage and we say, hey, what's up with Muhammad having sex with a 9-year-old girl? And they go, oh, yes, it's because this, and they give their reasons. They didn't
Mhm.
see, in their minds, they know about it. And
Mhm.
so we can actually defend it, not realizing, guess what? No one in that audience knew that was a thing. No one in that.
Right.
Almost
And
the
it just
entire
explodes
audience, you're
everything.
talking 99 point something percent of that audience had never heard that
Mhm.
before. And when they hear
Mhm.
me saying it, they think, is this guy making this up? This sounds
No, he's
crazy.
lying. He's definitely
I'm saying
lying.
that because that was my reaction when I first heard that
Right.
Muhammad had sex with 9-year-old girls. Like, there's no way Muhammad had
Right.
sex with a 9-year-old. That's ridiculous. Someone
But then,
made that
and then
up.
you
Right?
see it, and then everything
Someone made
just,
that
it
up,
just
right?
connects.
Then when they
Yeah.
hear me say it on stage, like, whoa, he's saying it to a Muslim debater. Let's listen to what this guy says in response. And he gets up, yes,
Mm.
Muhammad had sex with a 9-year-old girl, but here's the really good reason. And they're like, whoa, you mean it's real? And he's admitting it.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
now they're thinking, and now they can't deny it anymore. And so that keeps happening with topic after topic.
Mhm.
And eventually it's just shifting away from the previous generation of debaters who wouldn't touch any of this stuff to a younger
Mhm.
generation that's more aggressive. But they
Mhm.
also, this is like the authentic, not the people who are handpicked for a Western audience. These are the
Mhm.
people who are handpicked. These are the people that are sort of put out by the Muslim
Mhm.
population. Guess what?
Mhm.
These people tend to like, we're strong, I'm strong, you're weak, I'm
Mhm.
strong. They
Mhm.
like that. That's what's impressive to them. But guess what? That is repulsive to Westerners, right? That,
Yeah, it's
we'll
disgusting.
humiliate you, you're weakling, you're a weakling. That's
It's impious.
repulsive to them. So they shifted it. Dawah completely changed in the
Mhm.
2010s, 2014, 2015, 2016. You finally got the complete shift with Muhammad
Mhm.
Hijab and so on, and all these
Mhm.
young Dawah guys taking over.
Yeah.
That Dawah completely shifted from trying to persuade non-Muslims that Islam is the truth to trying to impress Muslims so that they don't leave Islam. And but the awesome part is then Dawah just was like became a joke to everyone else, because now you're just we will humiliate you all. And other people are going, this is what your religion is. This is what your religion is. But you're right, and those are the kinds of people who, yes, we're gonna dominate you. Islam's gonna conquer the world. Different mentality, and now everyone's going. Now everyone's really creeped out by it. Now people aren't taking it seriously, except for like dumb, clueless people and so on. So that's the shift that's taken. Taken a long time. And what happens simultaneously with all that? You start getting the avalanche of apostasy, because now Muhammad's on the table, the Quran's on the table, all this stuff is on the table. They can't defend it. Now, all these people now in 2025 know all kinds of things that they didn't know in 2006, 2007, 2008. Right. So it is a new world, and people, guys, these are awesome. These are awesome times. It's easy to look around at the world and say, oh, there's so much wrong with the world. There's so many problems and stuff. Man, if you want to expose Islam and reach Muslims with the gospel, you are living in the greatest generation in history right now. Previous generations could not have dreamed of the opportunities that we have. I'm not even talking about like 2005, 2006. I'm talking about 14 centuries of Christians, where you had the Muslim world over here, the Christian world over there, for 14 centuries, they couldn't have, if you wanted to go preach to Muslims, you're going to get your head chopped off.
Oh yeah.
Because you had to go to the Muslim world. Now,
Yeah.
anyone can talk to a Muslim right now in the comment section or on Facebook or on Twitter or
Yeah.
something like that. You got Muslims all around you wherever you are now. This is like the ultimate perfect time. They could not have, again, if you go 30 years ago, a Christian could not have dreamed of a situation where right now we could talk to a Muslim in Saudi Arabia or Pakistan if we wanted to. Awesome times. Super cool stuff.
You know what I actually think as well is a big issue as well is the accessibility of the information. We talk all the time about
that's the other part.
If you go to the Muslim world, they're gonna get your head chopped off, and that is true on a very large degree. But another thing that's really important is look at the way that the Muslims actually interacted with Christians in Christian lands. So let's say like the Iberian Peninsula. In the Reconquistadorist era, where obviously Christians are reconquering and they actually went back the Iberian Peninsula and stuff like this, you have bishops like Archbishop Rodrigo of Toledo. He encouraged dialogues between Christians and Muslims, right? But it was for the purpose of subverting Islam. It was for the purpose of showing the weakness of Islam and the strength of the Dominican order or the Catholic order in the region, right? Of Christianity in the region. But the access to sources was a big problem for him. Because he couldn't access the Arabic sources that the Muslims had because they were hidden away in libraries and other different catacombs and things like this. Not catacombs, but in other different places. They couldn't refute Islam as strongly as they would have liked. So they had to rely on the morality of Muhammad that they knew about, the concupiscence of Muhammad, let's say, the way that he was able to entice his followers into these specific sexual sins. And that argument would have been made much stronger if he actually had access to, let's say, Sahih Bukhari. Now, you could just click a link to Sahih Bukhari, and hopefully it's not like a doxing link, but you could go on the internet right now. You could go on Google, Sahih al-Bukhari, boom. You have the entire 7-volume set right there for you. You could just Control F and type in sex, and you will have literal hundreds of hadith mentioning some sexual proclivity of someone, somewhere, on some level, in some way. Okay? So the crazy thing that we actually see is what Archbishop Rodrigo would have wanted is just the information, because at the time he had the power and he had the personnel to do it. He had the scholars, but he didn't have the information. And more importantly, that information wasn't made readily accessible to everyone, let alone the scholars. It wasn't even made accessible to the normal common man. So now we have gone 2 leaps and bounds beyond what Archbishop Rodrigo ever would have wanted, which is actually now you now have the ability as a non-scholar to fact-check a Muslim person that's been put in a position of authority. So when the Muslim is saying, no, Muhammad never had any sexual relation with Aisha, for example, in your debate with Kenny Bowman, it was like, no, consummation just means to come together in some like weird handshaky partnership. And you're like, no, consummate means consummate. When you use the word consummate in English, it actually means like to have the specific sexual right. That's what it means. Now, people who are not Kenny Bomber as scholars or imams or people that for some reason it's always like white gingers that are doing this, but for whatever, it's fine. I don't really have a problem with white gingers. The issue that you have here,
the worst people. They're the worst people in the world. No, I'm just
kidding. Of course you'd say that, David. Of course you would.
See, that's the problem. Yeah, because you're a brunette. That's the issue. Like me personally, just anyone that has like brown hair, anyone that doesn't have black 4C hair, I disagree with. Me personally, okay, that's my issue. But that's what I'm saying, right? To end the diatribe, now that we have access to these researchers, now their authority of being a scholar, or rather an authority that can dogmatically tell you what it is to believe on this subject, that goes away. And now Muslims are now in the position of other Christian scholars where they're not actually authorities anymore. They are academics. They are people that can provide an opinion, and the strength of their opinion is only found in their convincibility as well as in the data that they provide.
Well, I was just going to say, I had Dr. Jay Smith on last week on my channel, and that's sort of like it just shows there are different approaches you can take to dealing with Dawa and Islam and morality and things like that. There's so many different approaches, and it entirely depends on the person. that you're dealing with, whether you approach it from historical context, whether you approach it from the morality of Muhammad and the Quran, whether you approach sort of the reliability of the hadiths and things like that. It's all there's plenty of content out there, which is why the work that David does is geared towards certain people. The work that Sig does is geared towards certain people. The work that Dr. Joe Smith does is geared towards certain people, and so it's sort of like it's this sort of unity. We're all coming together to sort of do a pincer movement to surround, so that no matter which way you turn, there is reliable information out there. To deal with whatever objections someone brings. I mean, typically it is the Dawa script. The amount of people you come across on TikTok saying, how can 3 be 1, or how Jesus is not God, he went to the toilet.
And now they've moved into logic and philosophy now. Like you'll notice a lot of the younger up and coming, and we're talking between the ages of 16 and let's say 22. A lot of these people that are new and up and coming, because of the informational age, they now need to get into more nuanced arguments that haven't been researched. So the issue has never been the actual quality of the argument, but the scarcity of it. Like before, it was Islam is a religion of peace. We don't need to worry about Aisha because the information is inaccessible. But with the help of the internet, now all of that is accessible. So now they need to start finding arguments that people can't access as easily with the click of the button on the internet. That takes real research, buying a book or going to a foreign country and going underground to find some guy. Like they now need to make the argument scarce to research, or very time consuming. So you will see a lot of these people are going into philosophy because it takes time to study philosophy and to understand what's going on in these analytic spaces. And they weaponize analytic philosophy for some reason. They will weaponize philosophy and will use it as an argument against Christians who, let's say there are Christians that don't know philosophy and they don't care about it. But then once the Christian team, obviously, as always, they will catch up and just say, oh, yeah, we've exposed all this before, and they will just go back. Then the Muslims now have to find another thing which is scarce in research.
Yeah,
and
I don't know if you guys have Whack-A-Mole over there in the UK, but we have this game called Whack-A-Mole. This thing you have to keep popping up. But yeah, that's it. And and this is, by the way, this is something we need to keep pointing out that because they'll do this now. Whenever they're coming to debate, they try to come up with something you've never heard of before because they know that anything you've heard of before, you're ready to destroy it. But tying what you guys were tying what everyone is saying together here. That's the other big part is having access to the sources. Like people don't understand how recent this is. That if you go back to the early 20th century, and so you could get like a translation of the Quran or something like that. Hadith and so on, forget about it. I mean, like Sahih al-Bukhari and Sahih Muslim, those were translated in the 1980s. The other collections like Sunan Abu Dawud and Jami at-Tirmidhi and so on, they were translated after that.
90s.
So I was actually like, and back then when I was starting, I'd actually buy them. You could get Sahih al-Bukhari and Sahih Muslim on Amazon. Everything else you had to get from an Islamic bookstore. If you wanted, like my copies of Jami at-Tirmidhi, so I got those from Islamic bookstores because that was the only place to get them. So if you wanted to get them, you got the hard copy and you started going through them. And so, even though that's way more work than people have to do now, because now you just go to sunnah.com, as you pointed out, enter a search term, boom, you've got everything right there. If you just go back a couple decades before I was reading this, they had no access to any of this. And if you look at like the 1960s, when Malcolm X and Muhammad Ali are going around preaching Islam and so on, no one has a clue how to respond to anything these guys are saying. And they have no clue. Everything they believe, they're told by the guy who was preaching to them. No one has any ability. People didn't even have the ability to research this if they wanted. What are they going to do? Everyone going to go, oh, I want to examine what you're saying. Let me go study Arabic for 5 years and then get the Arabic sources and so on. And then I can actually start studying this stuff. No one was doing that. So this allows the preacher to say absolutely anything he wants. And by the way, that's how the Islam has always had the 99-1 rule. Because I mean, think during the time of Muhammad, when he's going around saying, hey, did you all notice? Did you all, I'm actually in the Jewish and Christian scriptures. He's talking to a bunch of pagans. They have no idea what's in the Jewish and Christian scriptures. So they don't know. So they just believe him. They're in no position to look this up. So this is always a Muslim methodology. And then once you have Islam spreading in the West, because Muslim preachers are preaching, they can say anything they want. No one is in any position. They can say Islam's a religion of peace. They can say Islam will crush the world. They can say Muhammad is the greatest man ever. No one is in any position to correct them until the sources start getting published. And then all of a sudden you get easy access to the sources. What happens? Avalanche of apostasy. It starts crumbling as soon as people get the ability to start crushing it. And it's just started. So I was pointing, it's easy to get discouraged and say, oh, but Islam is spreading so rapidly, and look at London and so on. It's like, guys, we just got access to their sources like 5 seconds ago.
We'll be fine.
We just got access, and look at what kind of desperation mode they are in already. It's terrible. It's terrible. What are things going to be like 5 years from now, 10 years from now, and so on? As fast as things are accelerating and as fast as the dawah is crumbling, what are things going to be like 5 years from now, 10 years from now?
A good example for that, actually, David, is the country of Nigeria. We always talk about the fact that, like we see America have Nigeria's population will eclipse America's by 2050. So by the time most of us are in our prime, intellectually, physically, morally, all of us, and yes, you can have a moral prime, don't worry. By that time that happens, Nigeria, who, bear in mind, is a very even split between Christian and Muslim. There was a
that is possibly the most important spot in the world, right? As far as the future,
the most important spot in the world for me, because as a Nigerian.
Yeah. Hey, by the way, I just want everyone to know, because you definitely want to fish, but like, guys, there's this line basically that runs between the Christian world and the Muslim world. Not always between the Christian and Muslim world, but like it goes all the way out to like India, and then it's like Muslims on one side, Hindus on the other side. But there's like a line, and in Islam, they want to constantly push that line further and further and further. And so a place like Nigeria, where it's Christians down here, it's Muslims up here, and they want to keep pushing that and slaughtering, and they'll do it any way they can. And so that's like, hey, Sid, we need to have a Christian, like, there needs to be like a Christian, I don't know if there is one, but there needs to be like a Christian training center right there in the South, right there in the South, because that's where you need people taking their stand and staking their stand and exposing the nonsense. Anyway, sorry to interrupt, but I knew people might not understand the significance of Nigeria. It is huge.
Because here's the thing, by the way, God bless you guys. Everyone go and subscribe to Ananda Apologetics. Nando's my guy. Guys, go and subscribe to him. Just to continue with Nigeria, okay? We have such a terrible situation in Nigeria. There's been a silent genocide of Christians. Over 60,000 of them actually being put to the sword. Hundreds of thousands of them being injured. Millions of them being scandalized.
More Christians being killed there than the rest of the world combined, as far as people being killed by Muslims for their faith.
Actual people being killed by Muslims for the faith, by Boko Haram terrorism. And in fact, the army has been stretched thin to the point that the police are basically holed up in the capital, and they can't actually do the job of being the police, right? The army is now fulfilling the job of the police, and so the border security of Nigeria is very shaky. But here is, I think, the saving grace of this. When I went to southern Nigeria last year, there are actually Christian groups that are growing, particularly, and this is really interesting, you actually have Orthodox Christians that are growing in Nigeria. There are actually Christians growing in Nigeria and actually taking the financial elements of Christianity that are in southern Nigeria. All of the ports are there, all of the commerce is there in southern Nigeria. They're the backbone of the financial they're the financial horse of the country. They are the people that are actually creating the jobs, creating the wealth of Nigeria. They're actually putting that money back into the religion. And what I call on is, if you're watching this live stream, I know it's not that many people, but if you're watching this live stream, and we thank God, and you are Nigerian and you go to university, go back home. Leave the UK, go back home. Take your talents to South Beach, as it were, and join the Miami Heat. Join Nigeria in its efforts to become more Christian, to become a Christian majority. If you're an intellectual, if you wanted to be a professor, I promise you, you have a degree here from the UK, they would love to hear your voice in Nigeria. They need your voice in Nigeria. They need people to stand up for the Christian cause in Nigeria. Don't stay here your whole life. Go back home and work with your people at home. Why? Because whoever wins Nigeria will win the world for the foreseeable future. Whoever wins that country will win Africa, and whoever wins Africa wins the world. I promise you.
I mean that's the goal in Islam. It's once you push through Nigeria, you keep pushing right down. And once
Nigeria is a stronghold.
Yeah, that is that line needs to be held. One other thing. So as far as like there's a couple things that are relevant there. One is the Christians there need to know apologetics and polemics against Islam.
Yes.
Two, as far as the actual genocide, that stuff doesn't get reported. You don't see that.
People need to talk about it. I've been talking about it on my channel as well. I recommend reading Alexander Thurston's book on the history of Boko Haram. It's a great introductory book for you to read. You need to.
Robert Spencer on Jihad Watch. So he has Jihad Watch on. He has a website Jihad Watch, but also on Twitter. He's one of the few people who actually reports the news as it comes out from Nigeria. And we pointed out, because every week, unless like one of us is traveling or something like this, we do a show called This Week in Jihad, where we just cover for an hour, like the major instances of jihad that week. But we realized very quickly that we could just do a show on Nigeria every week, because there's always jihad,
something.
always
Churches being
jihad.
burnt, Bibles being desecrated, and actual icons. So we had Orthodox icons in Igbo land that were taken away and were actually ripped apart just by locals, right? Due to because in Nigeria the problem is you have it's basically a melting pot of religion. It is the London of Africa, if you think about it. You have so many cultural ideas. You have the Nigerian traditionalists in Igbo and Yoruba land. So in Igbo land, which is the southeast, and then Yoruba is like sort of southwest, you have the traditionalist of their religion. So you have Ordinala in Igbo, and then in Yoruba you have their own. Those are the traditionalists. Alongside the traditionalists, you also have Pentecostals. And the Pentecostals, unfortunately, pyramid scheme a lot of the stuff. So a lot of the money that's made by the Pentecostal churches rises to the top and doesn't come back down to help the communities. It doesn't come back down to help the poor. They build these huge mega churches and they don't help. I'm sorry, I'm going to say it, guys, as a content creator. They do not help. I've been there and I've seen the poverty with my eyes. I've seen them with my eyes. And then you have a Catholic majority in Igbo land, not in Yoruba land, a sort of Catholic minority, that allowed Catholic presence there. And then you actually have a Orthodox community that's spreading around that actually does do charitable deeds and helping. If I was to recommend helping those communities, I'll probably recommend the Orthodox communities or just any apostolic community there. But by getting people with information against Islam, that is going to help them destabilize what is going on in the north, because the access to Muslim information in the north has actually been truncated. It's not truncated, it's actually been stifled. And we actually have a case in point of someone, when they research into Islam, they leave its devotional theology. Case in point, my friend Ananda. Ananda, you were a Muslim for a number of months, and you left Islam due to researching. Am I correct?
Yes, of course.
Right. So could you explain what it was like to be a Muslim, and when you were a Muslim, how were you able to access the sources of Islam given the age of the internet? How did people feel when you were accessing the sources?
It was definitely easier. I think, there's an appreciation that there is a lot out there. Now, of course, I was a Shi'i, so there were sources that were largely in Persian and in Arabic that I couldn't read. And even if I could get an English translation, the veracity of said translation was always, something I could never be certain of. And I could one day quote something and someone speaks Persian or Arabic, they're going to come across and say, haha, you fool, it actually says this thing and this little letter here. And, you're going to get all these problems. So, the sources are both in the basic sources are very easy to access. The more complex sources, stuff that, there's stuff that everyone knows you don't want to be seen as well with every particular group. I know of someone showed me a crazy ruling from a Hanbali law book where it says you can eat apostates. So that's an interesting one that they'll probably not.
Sorry. Maybe like speak into your mic. What did you just say?
You can eat them.
Yes, you can eat them. Someone
you can eat the kuffar.
He was ex-Muslim. He was studying in the Hanbali Madhab. So this is someone who had access to the sources and can read
in
them.
The Madhab, okay.
And he sent me this quote where it said that if you kill an apostate in like some sort of, I think it seemed like it's a war setting, because it then later talks about how you can kill women and children in a battlefield because there's some obligation, your rights you have over them in a battle. And it basically said that you can kill and eat the apostate. It just says it straight out, you can just eat them.
What?
So, I mean, I doubt they're going to translate that and put it out to the public anytime soon.
Ludicrous.
I'm sure Khomeini, when I used to debate the Sunnis and they bring up what Khomeini said, you can do very horrible things to a baby. I doubt that they're going to be translating those things anytime soon to public knowledge.
It'd be funny if they had like a cookbook.
A cookbook on how to, they probably
how to cook apostates.
No. They would just follow
How
the
is
Old
it?
Testament. They just roast them with fire. You put some Baileys on it, and you're good to go.
Nah,
There you
no, it
go.
has to be halal though.
Oh, halal roast. That's fine. Just like
But
don't
you
eat the
wait, but you
toes.
know what? Actually, do wait. That's actually a question. So if that is true, if people take that as an opinion, in what way is it halal? Because they're still gonna have like all the things that are in the animal, like the blood and whatnot. Do they have to like?
You remove the blood, you drain the blood, and
You
then
drain
after
it
you
out.
drain the blood, you roast it with fire.
Slit the throat, hang them upside down, slit the throat, all the blood will run out, and then perfectly good.
Yeah, this
Yeah,
is
then you're good to
terrible.
go. You
This
just
is
roast it.
this is
Just don't
terrible.
eat the fingers or toes. It's not sukana. Just
So
don't eat the
and
fingers. Don't eat the toes.
I've also seen a very great Arabic source. I believe it's the Kitab as-Sunnah by I believe it's another Hanbali book. It might even be Ahmad ibn Hanbal, but I forget. So don't quote me on that. But he basically says that if you don't believe that Allah spoke in harfs and words, like letters and sounds, God spoke letters and sounds from all eternity, right? Like a man, like he's just chilling as God, but he's a man. He
Yeah,
just
so
speaks letters
sound
and
is
sounds.
eternal, by the
He
way.
says
So
if
like,
you
know,
don't
vocal
believe
cords,
that,
they're eternal.
he says if you don't believe that, you are a kafir.
Yeah, that's crazy, man. I mean, these things, I mean, this is the issue. Like, I think when it comes to the way that we do talk about Islam and the way that we sort of deconstruct Islam, I think the problem is Christianity had this period in the Enlightenment where people started to try to deconstruct the faith of Christianity in the Enlightenment, and that happened for a long time. So now deconstruction of the religion of Christianity sort of embedded into Western culture, unfortunately. But with the age of information, that never happened with Islam, right? Because they just blocked access to the information you would need in order to deconstruct Islam. It was impossible to actually deconstruct the religion because the access to the sources you needed in order for deconstruction to take place was limited. But with the informational age, with the introduction of the internet, for example, radio shows, even podcasts, and most importantly, that sweet Sheikh Google, that Google search, man, it's such a powerful thing. With the introduction of the informational age, now we have this accelerated deconstructionist era. Deconstruction for Islam never happened before the likes of David Wood happened on the scene. Now, David Wood, I'm sure you get emails every single day of people talking about how they deconstructed from Islam, or how they left Islam, or how they're considering doubts because they watched a video from somewhere and somewhere and somewhere. They start putting things together. So the deconstruction of Islam is happening rapidly. So now the apologetic is no longer trying to assimilate into this. It's actually trying to stop the deconstruction. So they have to consolidate whatever they can have right now and reinforce it and fortify what they have and garrisonize it, so to speak. So then when they now start again as a sort of great reset of Islam, of Islamization, what they will now do is go out into the world with this confidence in what they believe is their truth and say, we are now going to enjoin this opinion onto other people through the strength that we've been able to consolidate with our people. So I think that's what's probably going to happen given the next couple of years, which is a mass consolidation of the youth and just mass deconstruction at the same time.
I think Islam is basically going to, because you look at all their main arguments for the last 20, 30 years, they've now abandoned them. Like perfect preservation of the Quran, scientific miracles. They'll still use those with ignorant people, and you'll still have young people who don't know that they've been destroyed. You don't see the Dawah guys using their traditional arguments anymore. They wouldn't dare. And you guys have seen it. As soon as a Dawah clown is confronted by someone who knows the Dawah script, they don't want to talk. They don't want to defend Muhammad. They don't want to defend the Quran. And so it's like, what is going to happen now? You guys used to have arguments. Now whenever I hear a Muslim saying, hey, I'm going to give a case for Islam, I'm legitimately interested. Like, I have no idea what you could possibly say in defense of your religion right now, because every argument that you guys have historically used has turned out to be complete nonsense. And now your main Dawah guys know it. So any argument you use now, I can even point to a Dawah guy who says, hey, he says that argument's been completely debunked. Why are you using it? So that it's like, what is Islam going to be in the future? All I can think of is it's going to take on the role of like a gang, a really big gang. It's something you join for your protection, not something you're joining because it's true or because it's the truth about God.
It's because it provides the safety that you need.
Yeah, it's like joining the Bloods of the Crips, but it's global.
Right.
And that'll especially be appealing if you're in a town which is 20 or 30% Muslim or something like that. Well, that is a really good group to join up with, and now no one's going to mess with you because you're part of that group and so on. So I think that is the only thing Islam will have going for it, that There will still be people who want to join it for. It's just like in prison where people become suddenly convert to Islam because because it's like a gang and you'll have protection and so on. I think that's going to be the situation of Islam in the world, but we can definitely be making fun of that the entire time.
I think what they're going to start doing is they're going to be protectionist, in which what they're going to do is, like the way that economically you limit imports from other places and you try to maximize exports from to other places, they're going to try to limit the amount of information and critique against Islam coming in. They're going to filter who talks about those critiques. So you're not going to hear a Christian critique Islam, because what they're going to do is they're going to ingrain into the mind that any Christian that critiques Islam is automatically already coming from a false disposition. And due to the fact that they're coming from a false disposition, their critique is going to be false. Now, they're not going to ever explicitly say this, but it's going to be some zeitgeistic ideal. It's going to be some sort of zeitgeistic stronghold, whereby they put into the conscious of the Muslim, of the young Muslim, that if a Christian is saying something, automatically disregard it as false. And so now they won't hear Christian content creators try to do this. This is part of the consolidation attempt. They will now champion Muslims that they believe and select as being seasoned apologists. Those people will now filter the Christian objections towards these young people. And then what they will say is, hey, there is no problem with this because I'm a seasoned debater and I'm talking about this and I have no doubts whatsoever. And so once they filtered the objection through this lens, they will now provide some sort of shoddy response. And then now they've been able to consolidate their members in safety due to the fact that this has now not come as a true objection from someone else that isn't tied down to the trope of Islam. It's now a person that has basically given a washed down, watered down version of the argument and has now used it as an excuse to strengthen the Muslim populace amongst the youth. Now, guys, again, like I said to you, Reason Belief is on 972 subs. I told you to get him to 1K. So if 190 people are here and he's not at 1K, by the time this 2-minute timer finishes, okay, I'm going to be very angry, okay? We have a 2-minute timer. Get Reasoned Beliefs onto 1K. That's all I want, okay? Everyone go and sub. Everyone go and sub.
Also, something that I wanted to touch on when we were speaking about Nigeria and sort of the divide is something that's very important to note and is, a historic practice is that when Muslims have control over a particular space, they're very good at putting themselves in the higher position. And what that does is that it motivates people to want to join the Muslims so they can occupy those spaces. So, in countries like Nigeria, it's just not even going to be advantageous for a Christian to remain a Christian in every sense of life. And that's why most of North Africa converted. It's why most of Persia's converted, right? These places there. And we see that in the UK too, where if they're in a Muslim majority school and you're a Christian, you're an odd one out. You're gonna be pressured to convert, and a lot of people do. And this is just a very common thing we also have to be mindful for, especially when we have places in the UK that generally now elect independent Muslim politicians as mayors, as local councilmen. This is a genuine move of political power.
Yeah, they'll give them special bennies in society. They'll try and give them special socio-cultural benefits as well, like we were talking about. So not just legal benefits, but socio-cultural benefits. And so it becomes politically and socio-culturally or socially disadvantageous to remain a Christian. You are now more incentivized to become a Muslim, if not for the belief in one God and the simplicity of the religion, the access it affords you in Nigerian society. Guys, so that idea that is going on there about trying to subjugate the Christian identity and sort of remove it from actually it being an advantageous position to hold and separating it from actually its truth claims is something that is done in its consolidation of the religion as well as in the way that it tries to propagate itself to other people. Now let's go and check on Reason Belief over here, guys. Is Reason Belief on 1K? 5 subs are left, guys. 5 subs are left. All I need is 5 people to sub, okay? 5 people need to sub. We get Reason Belief to 1K today. 3 subs are left, guys. All we need is 2 more subs. Matter of fact, 1 sub is left. We need 1 more sub that's left. I'm subscribed now. I just subscribed, and that's taken him to 998. Come on. Just 2 more. Just 2 more. 999. All we need is 1 more person. All we need is 1 more person to subscribe. And he's done it. He's at 1K. He's done it. He's at 1K.
God bless you all. Thank you so much.
Amen. It's all
That
good,
means
man.
so much. Like really, it genuinely means the world to me.
Hey,
So thank you.
just so you know, Reason Belief, the first 1,000 subscribers by far the hardest 1,000 subscribers. The second 1,000, easy.
Easy claps, bro. Easy claps. Speaking of which, how many subs is the Dizzle on right now? David, how many subs are you on? Because I know you gave your channel to the young Hatun Tash. What made you, I don't know if this is a personal thing, but what made you make
Nothing
that
personal
decision?
about it.
What made you make the decision to give the channel to her? Why did you do it?
Made him. He couldn't make money with it. It was basically like Shadowland.
Yeah, it just got to the point where I was on some YouTube list where everything I posted was guilty until proven innocent, even though I was not breaking any YouTube rules. I would always win the appeals, but it would sometimes take me 3 or 4 weeks to win an appeal. So so anyway, the point is I would post a video. It would just randomly, like I would just wake up in the morning and I would check. It got to because I was getting between 1 and 3 strikes per month on just random videos. None of them were breaking any YouTube rules, but it was getting 1 to 3 of them per week. And so you get a strike, and sometimes you appeal it and they get back to you later that day. Sometimes it would take weeks. It would take weeks of arguing with them. There's nothing in this video that violates any rule. Show me anything in this video that violates a rule. And so 3 weeks later, they would restore my video and say, oops, guess what? I already served my week or my 2 week of not being able to post, not being able to live stream. And then they admit they were wrong and stuff. But it just got to a point where, like, there was one time I was up to 3 strikes. It was three bogus strikes, and which means that you're never allowed on YouTube again. But I was still in the process of appealing them all. I won them all, but I just got to a point where I was like, do I want to spend the rest of my life arguing with YouTube just to keep my stuff up there? Like, do I want? No, I liked spending my life making content. I don't like spending weeks out of every month arguing with YouTube about not giving me the strike. And it just got to a point where I was like, I would rather start over knowing how not to get on their bad side than just permanently be on their bad side. I'd rather just start over, post my content in various places so that it's not all getting banned and stuff like that. And I was just going to delete the channel. And then Thaddeus from Reason Answers, he's like, why don't you give it to someone? He said, I'll buy it and so on and stuff. And he was like, and I said to him, I was like, look, I'll sell it to you, because he wanted to buy it. And I said, but first I'm going to ask Hatun, because if Hatun wants it, I will give it to Hatun. And so I messaged Hatun and I said, hey, you want this channel? And she said yes. So instead of deleting the channel, I gave it to her. But yeah, that's what it was. And I mean, think about it now. So YouTube doesn't mess with me at all now, because I know how to not be on their radar for everything I post. So they don't touch me at all now. So it is like people, I always hear like, do you regret taking down your? No,
bro.
No,
it gave you the freedom you wanted.
Guys, it sucked every morning waking up and saying, let me open my laptop to see what they have banned me for today. It sucked. It's a sucky way to wake up, right? It's a sucky way to wake up every day. So,
you just can't do anything. You just can't do anything with that practically in any way. It's just like you can't get
no, and that's what it was. It was like, I'm almost 50. Do I want to spend all my that entire decade of my 50s arguing with YouTube about not to, that I haven't done it. I haven't broken a rule. Why do you keep doing this? No, no, start over. It's going to suck. It's going to suck. You're going to have to rebuild back up and so on. But you don't have to deal with this.
Because I actually did ask you this when we met at the conference. I remember having this exact same question, because I was like, it's crazy to me that you had a whole 300K, something like that. I feel like, yo.
700 when I gave it to Hatun, 700.
When it was at 700K, you were almost ready to crack a mill. You were probably going to be the first content creator in this space to crack a mill.
That's the thing. It would have been very difficult to get far beyond that, because every couple of months it was worse. Like every
Mm.
year it was worse. I would tell people every single year I was on YouTube, it got worse every single year as far as them coming
Right.
after me. And then
Right. Right.
it just got to where it's unbearable. I'm thinking, okay,
It's
I'm
just
getting
untenable.
1 to 3
Mm.
strikes per month right now. What's it going to be like 6 months from now? It's going to be
Probably
4 or
be like
5. It's
9.
going to be 4 or 5 strikes per month.
Yeah,
There's
no.
no, and there's no way they don't eventually just ban me
Just
from
like
the channel and
accident.
stuff. So
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
rather start
Yeah.
over. If anything is super controversial, like it's going to be Islamicize me or something like that, put that content somewhere else. Put my apologetic stuff here, and keep it. Be on
Keep it above board.
yeah, and not have that constant waste of time
Yeah.
of arguing with them, because I don't. That's the
Yeah.
thing. I can't stand wasting. I cannot stand wasting time. Like if
Mm.
I waste like 10 minutes, I'm like, gosh, I just wasted 10 minutes and stuff.
Just
Should
wasted 10
be
minutes of time.
wasting
Yeah.
like 20 hours a month arguing with these guys. It's horrible stuff.
Yeah. No, I actually pretty much understand that what's going on there as well. But there's also the reason as to why, like, for example, when it comes to like Christians in the informational space right now, Christian channels that are polemical against Islam are already at a disadvantage due to Islamophobia. So Islamophobia isn't necessarily something that's really clearly defined. It's some sort of aspect of hate speech, but how does that link to academic critique? Because if you show a source and you say this source says X and I think this is terrible, is that really some sort of irrational fear or hatred? You're saying that this source that I rationally was able to procure, and the conclusions of this source, which actually does speak on the specific tenets of the faith, says something really bad, and I disagree because of its badness. I don't think that's really fair to call that Islamophobia. But especially with the Labour Party as well, the Labour government, they actually post documents on what they believe Islamophobia is. And David Wood, have you checked these out?
The Labor Party stuff.
Mm-hmm.
No, I'm trying to think Piers Morgan recently defined Islamophobia. It said a dislike of Islam or Muslims. Like, wait, a dislike of Islam?
Yeah. Just a dislike general.
Islam calls for all of our deaths right now because we've criticized Islam. We supposed to like that? Islam calls for the death of all my friends because all my friends are either apostates or they're critics of Islam. So like, it's just weird to hear, hey, there's this ideology that calls for the violent subjugation of the entire world and the death of you and all your friends. Yeah. But if you dislike it, then you're an Islamophobe. You've got a mental disorder.
Now this is
wait. When did this come out?
Oh no, this came out like years ago, and you can actually see like this is like the Labour Party's rulebook. They've had this policy in for years.
Hey, send me the link to that. I want to check that out. Wait. If I just look up Labour's Islamophobia policy, will that pop up?
Yep. And bear in mind, this is the party that's currently in power in the UK. So in the UK, we have this thing called the first past the post.
Not for long.
Not for long. I mean,
Elon's on the job. Come on, we can see the writing on the wall.
Big Crip Elon? Yeah, Big Crip Elon gonna come in. He gonna change everything, man. America.
Big Crip Daddy Elon.
Big Crip Elon, bro. On Bloods, bro. So we have the So let me describe this in Americanese. So the Labour Party are the Bloods, and like they're the Bloods, and the Conservative Party are the Crips. So the Crips are usually the older guys, which makes sense, and the Bloods are like the younger guys. Now, with the Labour Party specifically, they've been working with cultural and socio-economic change a lot. They have hubs in London, Manchester, and Birmingham, right? They've been growing there brilliantly because the Conservative Party has been in power for basically over 15 years, and we've all seen how really bad the Conservative Party have been economically for the country. They were the ones that actually allowed for the UK to leave the EU, which economically at the time, as well as economically still right now, really bad for us. Like, the pound has never been weaker than in this 15 years than when we started to leave the EU, just as an opinion, right? Problem therefore being, the Labour Party decided to consolidate with the working class, which it's meant to do, and with immigration and with immigrants. And so one of the big points of the UK and UK's foreign policy was immigration and the asylum seeking process with Muslims coming in and things like this. So the Labour Party put out a statement of what Islamophobia actually is. It specifically defined Islamophobia in section 4, right, where it tries to define what anti-Semitism is in the Labour Party rulebook. But then in section 4, it asks, what actually is Islamophobia? And they actually concede that there is no single agreed definition of Islamophobia. So bear in mind, the people that use this term against people and they libel you, governmentally speaking, socioculturally speaking, they don't actually have a set definition for what Islamophobia is supposed to be. They may have working usages, but that could be subject to change given the situation, which is really problematic when you try to ban someone off of YouTube. But it's very helpful if you want to silence someone. So this is the definition, right? So the actual specific parliamentary group that actually does this is the All-Party Parliamentary Group on British Muslims definition. So the All-Party Parliamentary Group is the group that sort of talks about these kind of things, and they are endorsed by Labour. And by endorsed, I mean Labour uses this party's definition to come towards a working one, David. And this is how they define Islamophobia. They say Islamophobia is, quote, quote, rooted in racism. Given the UK, that makes some sort of sense. And, quote, quote, is a type of racism that targets expressions of Muslimness or perceived Muslimness. So bear in mind, Islamophobia is not, according to them, it's not irrational fear or hatred of Islam, the same way homophobia seems to be working, or prejudice against that. It is actually a type of racism or unfair discrimination against expressions of Muslimness or perceived Muslimness. Now, here's the very key question. What's Muslimness? What is that? David, what is Muslimness? What do you think Muslimness is?
Just whatever they need it to be.
So I guess if a Muslim said, like Ali Dawa, that once they get to power, they're going to kill apostates, and they're proud of that. Well, he's expressing his Muslimness. He's expressing his Muslim belief. And so if you have a problem and you say, hey, this guy's talking about publicly executing apostates, I have a problem with that, then you'd be guilty of a type of racism because you'd be targeting his expression of his Muslimness, which is, hey, I want to obey Muhammad and kill apostates. That's good enough.
I mean, it's good to know that Muslimness isn't necessarily a clear defined term, because Muslimness could be anything from something that is being against like the actual tenets of the religion to also the cultural practices that seem to go against the specific tenets of the country. For example, Islam does not advocate for the freedom of speech. So the article of the freedom of speech in the UK, which is a protected thing in the UK, is something that Islam does not argue for. It actually argues against that. And you have apologists that directly argue against freedom of speech, like Jake the Muslim made a decision. He actually argues specifically against freedom of speech. But the problem is if you critique that specific understanding, it might fall under a racism against Muslimness.
That, by the way, that is the problem with something like this. You use a word like Muslimness, which you could interpret as almost anything as having to do with anything in Islam, which means you could apply this to almost anything anyone does, right? Like any sort of objection I have to anything in Islam, you can you're targeting an expression of Muslimness. It's kind of, I look at this and I say, okay, it's not as bad as like Piers Morgan saying any dislike of Islam is Islamophobia or something like that. But for something like this, it seems you'd want to be pretty darn precise about exactly what you're talking about and not want
110%.
very vague terms like Muslimness that you could use for anything anyone says.